Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, also hit the like button. In this video, what we're going to be talking about are the residential zero turn mowers. We're going to talk about what to look for, the differences and the similarities. The brands I'm going to be going over in this video are going to be Bad Boy, Scag, Toro, Bobcat, Gravely, Ariens, and John Deere. I'm not going to really spend a whole lot of time on Toro or Bobcat. In another video, what I would like to do is dive a little deeper into the Toro, Husqvarna, Hustler, and Kubota. So hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified when I release a new video. I've made a lot of notes here because there's a lot of things I want to cover. There was another video I made about 7 months ago where I talked about there was a John Deere Zero Turn, a little Z335E, and I pointed out a lot of problems with that mower. One good thing about John Deere is they do want to hear back from their technicians over, where can things be improved. And it looks like they did make a lot of improvements, and we'll get into that later on in the video, but it still does need some improvements. And, I don't really love or hate any of these brands. I like quality, I appreciate quality, and I don't like it when companies start using cheap materials, cheap bearings and things like that. Companies always make changes. I noticed a lot of comments. They were saying on that one video that they had that same mower, they were having a great experience with it, and that's great, but I need guys to realize these companies make changes, and they make them often, and they do it. There's really one reason they do it. It's to make more money. Now, there's two different ways they can make more money. Now, they can go the route to make a high quality product, and then it takes time. Those customers have a great experience with that equipment. They build a reputation for having high quality equipment, and then they get more sales that way. That's the long, slow route to making more money. The quick, easy route that a lot of companies take that I don't really like, and I'm sure you don't like it either, is when they cut corners, use cheap materials. They're putting plastic bushings with no grease in place where it needs bearings, high quality bearings, okay? So we're gonna go over some of that stuff. And one other thing, a lot of these companies, these different brands, use a lot of the same components, like the engines. They're using either a Briggs, Kohler, Kawasaki. The transmissions, they're using Tough Torque or HydroGuard. The PTO clutches are using Warner. You'll even see on a lot of these models that we're going to look at in this video, the seats are the same. A lot of the things are the same. The difference is where they've cut corners, and also the main difference, in my opinion, what's very important is the quality of the deck for a mower. So we're going to look at some mowers that have decks that are 1/4 inch thick, and some that are about an 1/8 inch thick. And in my opinion, that's really important. You need, and I'll go ahead and say this, I think you guys should buy from a dealer, and I'll make another video about why. I think that's better than buying from like a Lowe's or Home Depot, buying from a dealer. But I don't want to get too much into that because this video is already going to be too long. So let's just go ahead and get started. And we're going to start off by looking at Bad Boy.
All right, first up, we're going to take a look at Bad Boy, and we're going to take a look at this MZ Rambler and then the MZ Magnum. But first, let's take a look at this MZ Rambler. This is coming in at $32.69. The owner of the dealership, he said this is recommended for about 1.5 acres. Anything over that, you want to step it on up to the bigger one. But just real quick, I'm looking at this deck. I always like the way these Bad Boys are made. They always use thick material. Look at the thickness of that deck. That's about 1/4 inch thick, if not 1/4 inch. 42 inch fabricated deck. You can easily lift up this foot plate and get access to the spindles, the deck. Now, why that's important is you want to be able to clean this. And with these decks that are fabricated, they're normally flat. They don't have like a stamped, dished out spot around the spindles like you'll see in some decks we're going to show later on in the video. And what those decks do is they allow dirt and water and everything to accumulate, and they start rusting out. And one thing I've always liked about Bad Boys is just how much room there is to get to everything. Notice there's a grease fitting there on that deck belt tensioner. There's your grease fitting there for the traction control arms. We're using hydro gear transmissions. As you'll see, that's pretty commonly used in these residential zero turns. I just like the way these are put together. They're easy to work on. Like I said, plenty of room, easy to keep clean. You notice it has a fuel shutoff valve there. Fuel tanks on the left there. It's pretty big. But the drawback is this has a single cylinder motor. I really recommend getting a V-twin, but they almost knocked it out of the park with this one. But with that single cylinder engine, I'm just not liking that. That's the brake that engages the parking brake. Everything feels really good. The seat feels good. The controls. I just think these are a very good mower. And that little slot in the back, that's great. You always want to think about, is it going to let water sit on it? So this is a 540cc motor. You can notice it's got smaller rear tires compared to the MZ Magnum that we're going to take a look at now. This one's coming in with a Briggs & Stratton 25 horsepower V-twin motor. You'll also notice that the front caster tires are much thicker, wider than this one. So that's going to, those narrower tires might leave more prone to leave ruts. I did not see any grease fittings. So these are probably permanently sealed bearings in there. And the deck, nice and thick, flat, going to be easy to keep clean. Bad Boys, I always refer to the frames and the design is simple. They're very simple, but it works. I really like these mowers. I did talk to a guy, I'll show maybe later in this video. He said he had one of a similar one, is about 5 years old, 600 hours on it. He's on a ranch. He has 6 acres, and he said it was doing great for him. I just like how you can, lift up that seat. You can reach in there, get to that, clean the back of that deck. I like having the grease fittings in spots. These always ride really good. I've noticed that the ride quality always seems to be very good on these mowers. And I'm just looking around here. You're seeing you got a starter solenoid down there on the frame. There's the clutch wiring harness. I'll go ahead and take a look. Now, this is the only one. I don't know who makes this particular clutch. I don't think it was a Warner clutch, but there's your clutch stop. That's very important. This is a hydro gear. These are non-serviceable. Okay, the other one was a non-serviceable transmission also. But I do like this mower, and this one was coming in at $41.79. That's the cash price. You can also get, you can get this one in a 54-inch deck and also a 48-inch deck. I was just showing you guys the hydro releases. Now, what I liked about this, these chutes right here are kind of rubber. They're like rubber. They're not that hard plastic like you see on a lot of other ones. And the seat had that, Bad Boy logo on there. Really high quality. And next up, we're going to take a look at the Scag Liberty Zs. Now, I've heard nothing but good things about Skags from other owners, and a lot of these have 3 different engine options. The Skags also have fabricated decks. One thing I noticed that you don't have easy access to the deck, and it seemed like if I remember correctly, they are all flat. They're fabricated decks, easy to clean, just like the Bad Boy. So as I'm talking to the owner of this dealership, I asked him, which is a better mower, the Scag or the Bad Boy? And he preferred the Scag. Okay, like I don't work on these, so I don't see what the common issues with them are. But one reason he thought that these were better was that they all have serviceable hydro transmissions, hydraulic transmissions. They're serviceable. which means you can change the oil and the filters. Each one of these come with different, like I said, engines. They're all coming in with, well, except for this 36, it came with either a Kawasaki or a Kohler. The Kawasaki is coming in at $5,099, and the Kohler was $5,199. And I'm looking around. One thing I did like, I like the build of it. It seemed very high quality. Instead of paint, there's a lot of textured powder coat on the frame, which is going to be very durable. Very resistant to scratches. I've gotten stuff powder coated over the years. It's, that textured powder coat will last a long time. This one has the Kohler engine, made in the USA. As you can see, the Scag bumper here on the back, nice powder coated finish. I really like it. Gas tank is on the left side, as you can see. Now this one over here actually has a Scag motor. So they do have on the 42-inch, you can get a 22 horsepower Kohler, 22 Briggs, or a 21 horsepower Kawasaki. And they're all coming in, well, the Kohler and the Briggs are coming in at $53.49, and the Kawasaki engine will cost you $54.99. Then on the 48-inch, you got lots of deck sizes. Like I said, you got 36, 42, 48, and then 52, and then I believe 61 inches. So on the 48, you can get a 22 horsepower Kohler, 22 horsepower Briggs, both coming in at $53.99, or you can get that 24 horsepower Scag V-twin that is $56.99. On the 52-inch, you can get a 24 horsepower Kohler or Briggs, both coming in at $57.99, or the 24 horsepower Scag at $58.99. And on the 61-inch, you can get a 26 horsepower Kohler, and those are coming in at $62.49 for the Kohler, and the 27 horsepower Briggs will cost you the same, $62.49. And the Scag is just $100 more, 27 horsepower Scag motor, $63.49. And I'm just kind of showing you guys the difference. No experience with that Scag motor, and I'm putting the camera around trying to look at that clutch. Like these are the serviceable transmissions right there, as you can see. Close up there, hydro gear. And these are used in some bad boys too, in the commercial mowers. I'll do another video on that, but here's the hydro gear. These are the non-serviceable hydros on the bad boys. So real quick, I'm just going to cover the Toro. The owner of this dealer, he did say, there's other people like the Toros. He viewed it as he could upsell to a bad boy or Scag. As you can see, this one has a stamped deck, so that would kind of put this one, I would just eliminate this right away due to that reason only, but it does have a better engine, and you're pretty much coming in at $33.99 for this mower, whereas you could get that bad boy MZ Rambler 42-inch deck with a fabricated deck for $32.69. They do have some with fabricated decks. This one was coming in at $36.99. And real quick, I want to cover the Bobcat. I didn't even know Bobcat made these. I'm probably going to come back to this dealer later on this summer and do some more detailed videos on these mowers. But this one right here, it's got a very heavy-duty deck. As you can see, it's got the grips there for you to step on it. You don't have to worry about stepping on that deck and bending it. This Bobcat 2000 was coming in at $54.99, has a Kawasaki 21.5 horsepower engine. Seemed to be very well built. Looked very, I think the owner called this kind of like an entry-level commercial mower, but it's targeted as a residential zero turn. Very high quality, odd looking battery. Uses the hydro gear transmissions again. Same engines. I believe this one had a Warner clutch on it. looked like a good mower. Looked like it's constructed really well. Serviceable transmission. That's a good thing. I'll have to come back and do a more detailed video. Now, one thing I noticed right away that I was not impressed with the Bobcats were these flimsy looking handles. They looked very entry-level residential to me. And this is the ZT 3000 52-inch deck, and it looked awesome. Okay, grease fittings everywhere. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that the Scag and the Bad Boy spindles are all sealed bearing spindles, and the owner, he said they have less trouble out of those spindles versus the greasable ones. Now this one, this 3000, this was a $7,000 mower. I'm not going to recommend you guys spend that kind of money on a residential mower, but I just thought this was a cool mower I'd like to throw into the video. Was not impressed with those handles. I could tell those are going to bend easily. Okay, bumper here, not the most impressive, kind of thin. Serviceable transmission, like that. It's like some of these mowers have, you know, it's like nothing's perfect. They have, you know, 8 great things and, you know, some bad things. So this is the very common clutch that we see from Warner. John Deere uses these on all their Zero Turns. And I showed you guys in another video where you can get those clutches from PTO Direct a lot cheaper than buying them from the store. And later on this summer, I'm probably going to cover some of these electric ones and some of these side-by-sides, get more in depth on some of these commercial grade bad boys. They just had awesome inventory here, and this was at a Popka Mower in Florida. I want to thank them for their time and letting me take some video of their equipment. They sell Toro, Scag, Steel, Bad Boy. Awesome guys, very helpful, and I really appreciated them letting me take this video of their equipment.
All right, guys, so as I'm delivering some of my racks to some of my dealers, I've stopped here at one, and I'm in, is this Leesburg, Florida?
Yeah, Leesburg.
We're in Leesburg, Florida, and a customer, one of my dealers here, was loading up his Bad Boy residential mower. And so we're going to talk with Jonathan. He's going to tell us he's really happy with this mower, and we're going to ask him a few questions and see why he likes it so much. All right, so here's the mower we're talking about, and the owner, Jonathan, has given us the time to explain his mower to us. So, Jonathan, how many hours do you have on this mower?
About 580 hours over 5 years.
Okay. So, have you been really happy with it, or?
I've been exceptionally happy with it. We have a 37-acre horse farm, a lot of paddocks. Sometimes I have to get in there and bring them down a bit versus a bush hog. But this is for about 6 acres of residential lawn. A lot of heavy oak trees, a lot of debris falls down, and it just churns up everything.
Okay.
It does a great job.
So this is a 5-year. So did you buy it new?
I bought it new, and really couldn't be happier with it. It's had a few little things, but that's typical wear and tear. You know, the rocker switch for the deck got clogged up. I had to replace that. Some little wheels, belts, but generally it'll keep rolling.
So no major problems, no major issues?
Not at all. I had it in here just before the summer season, which of course in Florida is about 7 months. And they just did a tune-up on the engine, changed some belts, blades, had to replace a spindle. But you know, a new one's $6,000, $7,000, and even for $1,000 real big, good quality cleanup, it's going to give me another few hundred hours.
Okay. So how much did you pay for this 5 years ago, if you don't mind me asking?
I think it was just $5,000.
Okay.
I think it was a $500 off at Tractor Supply. But what I like about Wayne Wicker here is, you know, they're dealers exclusive to the brand, and they're good service people. So even when I picked it up at Tractor Supply, it kind of leaves you a bit stranded, potentially. So this is a great connection for me.
Yeah, and I like doing business with local people instead of just going up to all the big box stores.
The the rocker switch for the automatic deck, which is really handy. Sometimes it gets clogged up. I had to replace that. It was like $100. She said she just replaced an ignition switch. I wasn't really having any trouble with it. It just goes.
Yeah, and what I like about Bad Boy is that they're really easy to work on. It's simple, but it works. Everything is really simple. There's always plenty of room. The only drawback that I see to a Bad Boy is that they are a little heavier. But when you're for what you're doing, that's what you want. You want something that's heavy, because that's usually durability, built to last. You've taken really good care of it. It's really clean to have that many hours on it and that old compared to what I see where I work. And another thing that I've always noticed on all the Bad Boys I've worked on, they ride so much better than a John Deere commercial mower. They just seem to just float.
Yeah, it's very comfortable seating. With the armrests are great. I could use a roll bar. I think the next model up has the safety roll bar. Occasionally, I think give that some thought as I'm hitting a little bit of an incline. But it's very comfortable. I'm usually on it for 4 hours at a shot, no problem.
All right, next up, we're going to take a look at some residential Gravely mowers. This one is a 52-inch 2023 ZTX. I'm sorry. Very nice mower. Let's look at the deck thickness. I wasn't very impressed right here. Not a big deal that it's got that little gap where they folded it over. This is a fabricated deck. But as I take a peek inside, I'm noticing, you see that right there around the spindles? This is going to make a big difference. That extra plate right there adds that much more thickness. This deck looked like it was about 3/16 inch thick, but that's really going to help take the impact if you hit something with that spindle. Gravely does something, I'm sorry, Bad Boy does something very similar on their commercial mowers. Add that extra plate there to really help take the impact when you hit something with that spindle. So that'll help strengthen up. You much rather break that spindle than bend your deck. Nice flat deck, not leaving no pockets for dirt and water and sand and things to accumulate. Plastic covers from the spindles. Nice seat. This is a ZTX 48-inch. And they've upgraded. The owner of this shop said this is a newer model, even though they're the same year model. This is a newer design. One thing I noticed, I liked these handles. They seemed pretty high quality. They didn't look like they were gonna. They looked better than that Bobcat, than that $7,000 Bobcat. Right here we got I believe that's a 23 horsepower Kawasaki fuel tank right underneath the seat, so your fuel tank isn't on the side. I kind of like that. I'm new to seeing that on these mowers, or on any mower really. I'm not used to seeing that tank design like that. Now, this is the newer one. Just minor changes, but he said they are having some quality issues with the seats on these. And I've seen that on certain year model commercial mower. New Z-Track John Deere's, fabricated deck, metal spindle cover, as you saw there on that deck. Let's take a look underneath. Non-serviceable hydros, Warner clutch. Like I said, a lot of them use the same components. It's just the way they design the rest of the machine. I looked at this one, same thing, non-serviceable. Gravely looked like a pretty good, overall pretty good machine, pretty well built. I did like it. He said they did upgrade the step right here. This is the one before where it just has like a smooth right here, but then it has just three of these little flanged areas. This was plastic, very hard plastic feeling on that chute. But he said this grip is a lot better. People like it a lot better. So let's take a peek. This deck, it's not as thick as the Bad Boy or the Scags. It didn't appear to be. Definitely not as thick as the Bad Boy. Now here's an Ariens Edge. That seat looks awfully familiar. It looks identical to the Bad Boy seats. I would almost bet that they were made in the same factory. So skinny little wheels on this. The Gravely had, you know, wider front casters. This deck was not impressive. Very thin. Gosh, I don't even know if that's probably about 3/16, I would guess. Wasn't very all that impressed with this one, but it did have a V-twin engine, Briggs & Stratton. Non-serviceable hydro gear transmission. And I was trying to see that clutch, and I did peek in there, and it is a Warner clutch. So pretty much the same thing on many of these mowers. So it's just like the layout of how they do it. Another tank right underneath the seat. And one thing that's going to make it, having that tank like that where you can get to those grommets and that pickup line, if you ever do get trash in the gas tank, it'll be easy to clean that tank out. But this one right here is $42. You're starting, you know, cash price $35, basically $3,600. And here is another Ariens. It's a 34-inch cut, very narrow. Of course, narrow little caster wheels on the front. You know, oftentimes guys are looking for a mower that'll get into some backyards, and this one would do it. Now notice on the deck how it's got that dip down around the spindles. That's what I don't like. This would eliminate it right away for that reason, because it's going to just let dirt and moisture accumulate around those bolts of the spindles on the deck. It's going to eventually rust out the deck. And these didn't really seem to have a quick, easy access to the top of that deck. 656 cc motor. Definitely not horsepower. Same switch, same PTO switch as they all use. These seem very flimsy. Wasn't very impressed. I did like how the back bumper goes up pretty high, so if you back into something, you're not going to knock into the carburetor. But I mean, a good looking mower. But now here is a really nice one that I was pretty impressed with. This is an Ariens. It's a 52-inch. This one, I can't remember if he said this one was a new style, but the deck is fabricated. The deck seemed definitely thicker material. And see how it has the flanges around the spindles. This is closer to probably like getting very close to a commercial mower, but while still being residential. And very nice seat. Little hole there in the back to let water out. Actually had a little short roll bar, very short. But hey, it could, if you roll the thing over, it might save your life. See how high this comes up, so it protects that. If you back into something, you're not going to hurt your intake. Fuel tank right underneath the seat. This one was I liked this one a lot, but still had non-serviceable hydros. Looks like we got a leak or something right there already, so wouldn't surprise me. Yep, it was using the hydro gear transmission. I wasn't seeing it when I peeked down underneath there, but that's the part number it's using. Nice looking unit. And here's underneath the mat. It did have some little holes there. I would be kind of worried about that accumulating dirt and sand and getting all scratched up and dirty and rusty. I like those metal decks like on the Scags. But this flat up there, that's a lot better. It's not dished out around the spindles, metal spindle covers. But this is what I'm talking about real quick, how you can just access the top of the deck for cleaning. Take like an air compressor and clean all that off real easy. This is on that a Bad Boy MZ Rambler. So finally, let's take a look at the John Deeres. I came in here to a local Lowe's and I was looking for a 330M, and they only had this 320M, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by how good it looked. They've redesigned a lot of things on this mower. Here are the specs on it. Got a 21.5 horsepower V-twin John Deere engine, it says. They haven't changed the deck. We'll get to that in a moment, but they did change the color, as you can see. The older decks are yellow, and the newer ones for 2023 are green. I actually think that looks better, but in this video we're covering the residential Zero Turn. So let's take a deeper look at this and see what they changed. New styling, I'm liking it. One thing I noticed right away, this back right here, it's up a lot higher, so you're protecting that intake. I like that a lot. I lift up the seat, and I noticed they got rid of that cover that attracted all the mice. So that problem is solved. You can keep this thing clean. There's the deck height adjuster cam. Easy to keep clean. I'm liking everything that I'm seeing right now. Fuel tanks underneath the seat. That's a first that I've seen on this mower. I wanted to look at the date of manufacture. It's January 24th of 23. Now the old tags would say DOM, date of manufacture. So as we're looking around here, I want to show you some other things about it. I like this. They've changed that foot plate. You can lift this up a lot easier instead of having to unbolt it. I see no changes on the deck. It looks like they're still using those spindles. Nothing seems to have changed except for the color. And I'm going to take a look at the thickness of this deck, and I'm going to show you guys something, because I was actually just recently replacing one of these decks. And see how thin that is? It's stamped out. And I'm going to give you guys a closer look, because recently we had one come into the shop and the owner was saying it wasn't cutting right. I'm going to show you. It was this Z345M, and it's the older style. It still has those plastic bushings in there. So let's take a look at the date of manufacture on this unit. It was 3/12/21. Okay, so the customer had these old, I took the old blades off because I wanted to make sure, yes, they're wrong style, so I put new blades on it. And this is a way you can check to see if your deck is bent. And you see how the cutting edge of these blades are not lining up evenly? It's off about 1/2 inch. So this deck is bent, and a new deck was $780. All right, so he went ahead and ordered a new deck, and I'm going to show you guys a close-up. I measured it. I was just so curious. I took out a ruler and wanted to measure the thickness of this metal. And it looked to me like, the best I could see, that it was 3/32, which equals 13 gauge. I'm going to show you a close-up photo. So let's head back to the Lowe's dealership, look at this newer model. I do like they're putting this longer tube. They're actually doing this on the commercial mowers too, where you can drain the oil a lot easier. I like that. So I'm going to go here and take a look, see if they've changed anything as far as the hydros, and they look to be the same. And occasionally we do get a problem out of these e-brakes right here. But overall, these hydros are pretty reliable. And as well as the PTO clutch, it's rare to see one going out, even on those other year models. Now here's the big change. They improved these tires. These tires look so much better, and look at that. They're no longer doing those silly plastic caps. They've got bearings in there with grease, and the grease is just coming out. So they definitely have improved several things. They didn't improve the spindles, they didn't improve the deck, but they did improve, the design. They got rid of that plastic cover. Got the better tires on there now. This feels great. The deck lift felt really good. Even this felt good. The chute felt better. So they definitely have improved. I like that when they have the engines with the separate choke lever. I don't like that when the engines that have the choke at past full throttle. Overall, they've improved everything that I complained about in those other videos except for the thickness of that deck. So guys, here's a look at the brand new John Deere residential zero turn. All right, so let's talk about pricing. All right, so the John Deere, I'm going to show you y'all can pause and look at this, but the 315E, you're coming in at about $3,200. That 320M was $3,500, and the 330M is almost $4,000. So you're coming in at $3,900. And I'm going to give you guys my pick if you're going to spend close to around $4,000. So if you wanted to compare something to the 330M and you're going to spend $4,000, I would recommend getting the Bad Boy MZ Magnum. I really like this mower. It had so many things going for it, but mostly it's the thickness of this deck. It's practically, it looks like a 1/4 inch thick. I didn't measure it, but I can tell you, I promise you that's probably a 1/4 inch thick. That chute was like a nice rubber. I like it's a fabricated deck, grease fittings everywhere. This was just an awesome machine. I like how you can just lift this up. Get easy access to the deck.
They're easy.
Bad Boys have always just been really easy to work on. They're simple. It works.
Dirt and debris.
I just like the design. Like I said, there's always plenty of room.
Other mowers, like the John Deere mowers, have a lot of
very nice mowers, I think. So if this is my recommendation, and this is a 54-inch deck on this one. Now this particular one would cost you about $42.69.
You're not going to have that issue.
Now it's not perfect. There are some things I would like to see improved.
V-twin.
One being the cover on the rear bumper. I would like to see that higher.
I do like the Kawasaki.
This has got the Kawasaki engine. Very clean. I don't like how the wires are all loose and everything. I'd probably zip tie those and kind of tuck those in. But here's that bumper. If it were just a little higher to give some better protection, if you were to accidentally back into something and hit
the carburetor
or the intake,
above the carburetor, and it'll crack
it wouldn't damage it. But that's one thing the John Deere has beat over this one,
might not realize it,
is that cover came up a lot higher to give you some better protection.
It's going to stop you.
I see this happen all the time on even commercial units, but
if you were to hit,
good thing is this is, instead of being a hard plastic, it is kind of like a rubber, so if something comes and hits, it's not just going to break it. It would probably, it might tear it, but it might give and flex and not put a hole in it where you're sucking up dirt into your carburetor. But other things I liked about it was the seat. It's not going to hold water. One thing about those John Deere seats, those yellow seats, I see them mold easily, and they're hard to keep clean. I think this one would stay cleaner.
The foot pedal got these.
I like the way
grooves
it has this grip here on the
over time. They grip your feet
foot
really
pedal
well
to lift the deck. I just like the way this thing feels. I like the way they run. I like the way they ride.
It feels very smooth, very refined.
This is my pick for if you're going to spend around $4,000.
These key
now,
switches,
if you're going to spend,
these PTO switches,
I'm just pointing out here that the switches are all pretty much the same on pretty much everything you're going to get across all the brands.
And I can guarantee you, if you step
on this deck, you could step on this deck, and that's one thing I always tell the John Deere owners not to do. Don't step on those decks. They will bend. But this one, you're not going to have a problem with it if you step on it.
So that's going to do it for this video. And like I said, out of these brands that we covered, I would go with that bad boy. Now, in the next video or a later video coming soon, I'm going to go in a deeper dive into the Toro, Husqvarna, Hustler, and Kubota. And my opinion might change. Now, if I had $5,000, I might go with that Scag simply because they had similar decks, thickness. I like the powder coating on the Scag, and I like that it had the serviceable transmissions. So anyway, I hope this video helped you guys out. I know it's long, but if you do me a favor, hit that like button, but most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.